Yeah.
4 years ago today, it was not a joke, the April Fool's joke that Guns N' Roses played the Troubadour. When did you first find out that all of this was going to happen, the reunion? Because before, most people, the public knows, or did you not find out until they finally hit the stage? What was your timeline of the whole GNR reunion?
Well, it's funny because leading into the official announcement of the reunion, there were countless reports and rumors and people out there saying it was fact and what have you. And I shied away from but announcing or broadcasting that was fact because I honestly didn't know. I had heard some stuff on the inside, and I'd heard some people that it was a done deal. But, I have a relationship with a lot of the guys in that band.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't want to be that guy who was going to sort of steal their thunder. So although a lot of people were in my ear telling me it was a done deal, and by the way, not anybody in the actual band, but people very close to their business and people I know in the industry, I refrained from going public with it really just because, I've done a couple. I was really the only guy that did a couple things with Axl in the last few years.
Right.
Slash is a close friend, as is Duff. The other guys in the band I know really well, Frank and Richard and all of them. So I didn't want to be that guy. Dizzy. I love Dizzy. So I didn't want to be that guy, and I wanted to just kind of let it play out organically how it was going to play out. And I didn't know what was real, and I didn't really 100% know what was going on. And the really funny story about all that is that, and I will never forget this, and to this day I forgot to ask him what it was really all about, but Slash and I text a lot, but rarely do we actually talk on the phone because, I do that with tons of people. You just, it's almost weird. I was saying to a friend the other day, it's almost weird that the phone rings because you're like, whoa, the phone actually works as a phone, because so many people are, text everyone. I text my parents. I text everyone now.
Sure.
So I remember he called. I'll never forget it. I was driving somewhere and the phone rang and it was him. And I was like, this is weird because he never actually calls me or, if we die here and there, yeah, but usually it's a text. So phone rings and it's him, and I answer and I go, hey man, what's going on? You okay? And he's like, oh yeah. And I said, so what are you up to? He goes, oh, I'm just, and he really had nothing to say. And I just thought it was like the strangest call I ever had from him back in the days when he was getting loaded. And I said, and then I remember he said to me, I've never really told this story before, and then he said to me, he goes, because he will from time to time pick my brain about stuff going on out there and what I hear, and just sort of like he doesn't stay overly tuned in to what's going on in the world of other bands or what have you. So he said to me, "Yeah, man, what are you hearing about all this stuff about Guns and reuniting and all that?" Huh. And I go, "You're asking me?" And he's like, well, yeah, man. He goes, because you got your ear to the ground. What are people saying? I don't know anything about this. And I go, really? I said, so you know nothing about it? He goes, no, man. He goes, I don't know what people are talking about. I'm doing my thing. And I'm very close with his band, the Conspirators, sure. All those guys I'm really close with. They're great friends. And I said to him, I don't know, man. I said, I'm just telling you it's out there, and it's out there heavy. And he goes, yeah, I don't know. I'm really not sure where it's all coming from. And I'm just focused on the Conspirator stuff. And I just, I don't really know anything, man. I don't know what's going on with all this. I go, wow, that's real interesting. So you don't know nothing. He's like, no, man. He goes, there's really just there's been some talk, but I don't know what's going on. And then I swear to you, like 3 days later, the reunion was announced. What? And to this day, and I keep forgetting, I just saw Slash a month ago because he was at the Alter Bridge show I was at to see Miles, and I to this day I keep forgetting to ask him what that was about, and I'm sure if I do, he's just going to give me like a smirk and not say too much because I'm sure it was just him doing some misdirection and having some fun with me, and knowing that since I'm so entrenched in that scene that he was just kind of seeing what I was going to say and just like throwing out misdirection. I mean, because he had to know what was going on then. So it's just really funny. And that was the first. So there was that, and then it officially got announced, and then I knew what was going on. And I did not go to the Troubadour, but I did go to the very first show in Vegas.
I mean, that's just something else. I mean, to think Slash might be that calculated just to misdirect you and to, hey, it's not happening. And then 3 days later, I would like to think that him and Axl didn't reconcile in 3 days, since then. And a tour got put together or shows in 3 days. So that's fascinating. If next time I see that you're going to interview Slash, I'll tweet at you trying to remind you to ask him.
I just think he was messing with me a little bit and busting my balls, and he probably expected a call from me like a few days after the reunion was announced saying, "What the hell, dude?" But I know him well enough to know it was probably just him being good natured and having some fun with.
But you have still cracked the Axl shell. You've gotten to speak with him a couple times. What has stood out more as far as like which interview has stood out more? The one from that metal show, or was it Sebastian Bach and Mike Piazza? No, Mike Piazza wasn't there. It was Sebastian Bach was there at Q, right? And then Axl was next door and just showed up?
Yeah. Definitely the radio one first. The one for that metal show was really one I wish I had back. It was fine, but it was not the interview that I would have hoped to have done. It was just, and look, I'm not making excuses for it, but it's just being truthful. We waited about 14 hours for that interview.
Wow.
The stories that I could tell you surrounding that interview are pretty amazing, but maybe not for people that really know, especially what was going on with Guns at that time when they were going on at midnight and all that sort of stuff. But we went down there to Miami to do that episode without really having a commitment that he was going to do the show. It was kind of like taking a gamble. And the manager he was working with at the time, because he was going through a lot of managers, but he had a manager at the time named Peter Katzis, who's still a major manager in the rock industry. And, Peter sort of brokered that for us in a way. And the vibe, the idea was like, well, you don't know if we're really going to get him, but I think we put it in his ear and you will get him if you're actually there and set up, and we'll see how it goes and take a shot and let's go for it. So we flew to Miami thinking it was fairly set up. And then when we got there, we had a room down the hall. We set up our gear. We set up the set. And I remember we got there like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they were playing that night. And I will never forget this. I was standing back by the ramp because the initial report was like, okay, he's going to do it like at 6 p.m. and then they're going to play. And I'm like, that'd be amazing. We get the interview, we get to watch the show, we go to our hotels, done. And I remember, I'll never forget, he walked down the ramp, Axl did, at like 3:15 with his dog and walking towards the dressing room, which was the opposite hall that we were in. And he saw me. I was on the phone and he saw me and he waved. And I was just like, wow, he's actually here already. This is going to happen. And it's going to happen like on time and the way it's supposed to. Well, anything but, because the interview didn't happen until literally 5 a.m. So if that was 3-ish in the afternoon, the interview happened 14, 15 hours after that moment.
Wow, Jesus.
And they went on and they went on at, I think, around midnight. It was the American Airlines Arena in Miami. They went on at midnight. They played till just after 3 a.m. I kept wanting to get out of there. I kept saying to my producer, he's never coming and doing an interview after this show this late. We got to get out of here. Mm-hmm. And my producer was not having it because he's just like, we're here and we're set up. And until I know he's left the building, we are not leaving.
That's a good producer.
And to his credit, but I got to tell you, Brandon, I mean, we were nodding off. So tired. We were sitting in the back in those chairs, literally nodding off. The band played. We would pop our heads out, watch some songs, come back, try to close our eyes for a little bit. I mean, we had already been there for hours, and we were just wiped out, all of us, and just kind of over it. And I remember it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and me and my producer walked down to where the Guns N' Roses guys were, and they were having beers, sitting back in the hallway like it was like noon. And we were like, our eyes were like just bloodshotted, and we were just fried. And we just went up to them, and they go, "We're calling this. Obviously, this isn't happening." And then somebody from the crew came out and was like, "Oh, no, he's going to do it. Just hang out." We're like, "He's still here?" And they were like, "Oh, yeah, he'll be down." And then, sure enough, like literally 5 a.m, he walks in fresh as a daisy with DJ Ashba, who was in the band at the time.
Right.
And that's another thing. People have seen that interview always ask me, like, why the hell was DJ there?
Right.
And you guys didn't even talk to him. Well, the reason why that was is because Axl wanted him there. And DJ, and he and I have talked about this countless times since, DJ knows that, like, if you're getting Axl Rose on TV for the first time in 15 years, no one's going to talk to him. You've got to come to Axl. It's no disrespect to DJ, but he knew that better than anyone.
Yeah, this is the reality of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted him there as like a security blanket or whatever. And I remember Axl came in, and once he came in, he was great. I mean, he was fine. He was like, remember, he kept saying to me, "I didn't even know you guys were still here set up to do this. I didn't even know I was doing this." So there was some communication, like, amongst people backstage that they were, that maybe the whole thing was never really accurately relayed to Axl. And he just kind of said, "Oh, those guys are still here. Yeah, what are they doing?" And then it was sort of like, well, let's just grab them and make it real spontaneous. Whatever the case may be, obviously we got something really pretty unique at the time. I just, from an interview content standpoint and an alertness standpoint, I just wish that, I wasn't literally on fumes doing it.